butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can do anything because I read a book. I can literally do anything. Reading rainbow. I have become a god because I read a book. My power grows like no one knows. I'm mad with power.
This power. No man should have power like this.
I can go anywhere. I must stop anyone from having reading power. Take a look, there's no more books.
What have I become?
All right, go, 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 go.
Hello, citizens of Earth and points beyond. Welcome to Cordkillers. Our mission is to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you can watch the stuff you love when you want, where you want, whatever damn device you choose, however you want it, cut, sliced, diced, or otherwise. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, yeah, I'm Brian Brushwood, and more importantly, that was LeVar Burton burning books so that no one could steal his reading power. All I could think of for the rest of my life from this day forward, whenever I see LeVar Burton in anything, is that I gave that man a beer, and he was so thankful for it. Like, I handed him a Dharma Initiative beverage at a Dragon Con, and he pauses, he goes, wait. This isn't an energy drink, is it? We're like, no, it's Natty Light. And he's like, oh, good. And then off it went. It was amazing.
That is fantastic. That is a fantastic video.
Yeah, that's from Funny or Die. And of course, you can see the whole thing over at Funny or Die. And for those of you who didn't see the visual, it's LeVar Burton becoming mad with godlike reading powers and destroying all books so that nobody else can.
And actually, LeVar Burton doing it. That's what impressed me. They didn't get a look-alike. LeVar's like, yeah, sure, I'll make fun of myself. I'll poke. This is great.
Well, and of course, that's all fueled by the mad success of his recent Reading Rainbow Kickstarter and all that stuff.
It's all fueled by mad power.
It's all fueled by his mad reading power.
It's actually a true story.
Yeah.
The documentary.
There's Roots and this video. Those are the two true things that he did.
Time for our primary target. So E3 is going on. E3, if you don't know, is the Elements of Experimental Ectoplasm. No, it's the video game
Ghost Conference.
Yeah, it's where all the video game industry people get together. It's the CES of video games, and Microsoft had their announcement this morning. Among the gaming announcements, Microsoft announced Halo Nightfall, a live-action weekly series directed by Sergio Mimica Gazan and produced by Ridley Scott. Sergio's the guy that did Under the Dome. He worked on Lost. He did some Battlestar Galactica stuff. I may be wrong about Lost, but I know he did Battlestar Galactica and Under the Dome. Series will be part of the Master Chief Collection that is coming out in November. So you're going to have to buy a box set of video games, or virtual box set, in order to get the series.
So what's interesting about, first of all, real quick side jag on the gaming side of things, is that what they're doing with the Master Chief series is they're essentially taking the entire series of Halo, which spans, of course, 3 different consoles, and they're making it all available on just one disc with its own set of achievements. You could play the entire saga from Halo 1 all the way up to the current release.
Even Halo 2 multiplayer.
Yeah, well, and they also they have all of the multiplayer maps on there, and they encourage you to take greatest hit scenes so that people can make their own playlist. Which, to be honest, this is the only way you're going to get me personally to play Halo. There's no way I'm going to commit to taking the first step on what is promising to be a 200-hour journey. However, if you say, hey, we cut out the best 35 moments of it, just go through those and you'll get the story, then you might get me in on this. But I thought it was an interesting value add that we're seeing again. Microsoft and Xbox doubling down on the idea of that secondary legitimizing content. And you and I had a debate over whether we thought that this was meant to draw more people into the platform, or as I thought, to be fan service to make people happier that they're already in this ecosystem. Did anything about this shift your position on that?
No, in fact, I think what this has done is made me think we're both right. I think the Spielberg project for Showtime, or that's rumored to be it for Showtime, is where I was right. They're going to use that to try to draw people into the platform.
Yeah.
I think where I was entirely wrong is that the aim of any of this is going to be to turn the Microsoft Xbox into a home entertainment center. That they've made it very clear today that Xbox is about games. And they need it to be about games, and they need gamers to know it's about games, and all they're talking about is games. And this series is really meant to be a value add for people who like games.
You know, and it's interesting because I saw some people kind of strutting on Twitter, and I apologize to use the word strutting. I think it was Crash Kincaid that was tweeting that no mention of DVR capability, no mention of Hollywood partnerships, no mention of taking over the living room or any of that stuff, which to me, I mean, yeah, on the one hand, that's great that they recognize that they made a branding misstep last year. But on the other hand, at the end of the day, my Xbox does get used 3 times as often for video content than gaming content. And I don't know that consumers, yes, gamers win in that they feel like, good, you got back to games where we want you, Xbox. But on the flip side, I don't know that consumers win for giving up all of the advantages that they were trying to put into the original pitch for the Xbox One.
Well, and that's where I say judge Xbox Cordkillers by what they do, not what they say, especially at E3, where they're speaking to video game industry people. They really need to recapture that ground among the E3 crowd. But those of you who are like, hey, I like Xbox One for the cord cutting things, which there are some, they did things this month that helped you out by making Netflix, Vudu, all of those things outside of having to pay for Xbox Live Gold. They added a ton more video apps. They are not giving up on that side, but they realized that last year the criticism was at E3 that they spent too much time talking about that. And I think Phil Spencer, who now runs the Xbox division for Microsoft, realized, yeah, we can make that message to the cord cutters in other places. When we're at E3, we need to talk about games.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it can do all of those things, but at the end, when it's all said and done, its core competency, its brand is of course for gaming, and they were able to focus on gaming. It makes me wonder retroactively how much of last year's event was a lack of fully developed, ready to present games, because everything I saw this year was incredibly polished, very well done. There seemed to be, and I guess we could talk about this. This is a little bit of what we're watching ahead of time, but there was number one, Twitch TV went down, which I was surprised by, considering that they were pushing pretty hard to be like the source for everyone to watch this event. Did you notice that? Where did you see it?
I just watched it on LiveBlog. I'll be honest. I was like, I want to see these game trailers in a much better resolution than that stream's going to be.
Yeah.
And so I just want to know what the facts are. And I watched the game trailers afterwards in their individual postings. So I didn't see Twitch go down. And I'm actually glad I did it that way now that you said that, because that would have been really frustrating.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that Don Matrick last year, to your point about not feeling like they were ready, was taking the Xbox in a different direction. And Phil Spencer, now that he has taken over and Matrick left to become CEO of Zynga, has really pulled Xbox onto a different path.
Well, I think it's the right path for them to do. And I thought that for the most part, we'll talk about this more later about what's on our radar, but I thought they did a pretty good job. I think it was a good course correction for Xbox.
And maybe not much in there for you cord killers, you cord cutters in the audience, right? But if you're a gamer, definitely Brian's right. Like, they had a ton of stuff for gamers, and that's what that's about. I just thought it was interesting to mention that the one non-game thing that they were able to get in there was that Halo Nightfall, and it totally backs up what Brian's been saying, that they want to make this stuff, at least in part, if not the majority of the part, to really satisfy the hardcore gamers. And that's a really interesting thing to think about, is taking a talent like Ridley Scott and Sergio Mimica-Gazan and making it a value add. Yeah.
Well, and plus also, did they define specifically what Ridley Scott's job was in this? Just an overall producer, mainly directed by other...
He is an executive producer, Brian.
Basically, he watches it and says what needs to change for him to feel good about his name being associated with it.
He'll take meetings.
All right, good enough.
Let's move on to our secondary target. Because none of this Xbox stuff's any good if you can't get Netflix streamed. And if you're on Verizon, you may not be able to get Netflix streamed all the time. Netflix started showing an error message to some people last week that said, quote, "The Verizon network is crowded right now. Adjusting video for smoother playback." This replaced older error messages that just said buffering or stuff like that. Verizon got royally pissed about this, sent a cease and desist, claimed that Netflix decides to send their video through congested pathways, and it's not inside the Verizon network where the congestion is. And anyway, today, Ars Technica reports that Netflix has released a new monthly speed index showing that Verizon has fallen a couple of slots in speed behind two DSL providers. I think it's Frontier, Windstream. And then Netflix, even though they've reached an interconnection agreement with Verizon, is not seeing the agreement implemented yet, which is why they're still having these bad these bad service performance numbers from Verizon. Maybe that error message was meant as a nudge to get Verizon movers faster. I don't know. But they also announced that they would stop testing these new error messages as of June 16th.
So I'll say this much. If I'm Verizon, it doesn't matter if it's my fault or not my fault or whatever. I am just as pissed as they are about Netflix, branding my network experience as being the flawed. Having said all of that, also, once you accept $1 from Netflix, you lose all justifiable position from in the marketplace of public ideas to claim that it's not your fault, because at this point you're getting paid and now we're paying customers, and that means I wanted my burger plain and you threw mayonnaise on it, and I ain't having this mayonnaise covered burger because I'm a paying person at this point.
So wait, you think this is Netflix's fault?
No, it's definitely Verizon's fault. And what I'm saying is Verizon is right to be offended that Netflix would try to out them as the culprits. However,
why are they right to be offended? I guess that's what I was.
Well, because first of all, it doesn't matter if it is their fault or isn't their fault. You don't put up with a partner crap talking you right in front of everyone, and especially one that is denigrating your specific network. So I understand the play to say that's out of bounds. You shouldn't have done that, right? But they took money from Netflix, at which point you lose. Along with that price, you lose the ability to have that moral high ground.
Yeah, and the point that I made on Daily Tech News Show when this story came out was neither one of them are wrong, and neither one of them are on your side. Netflix is doing
That's
this
a good point.
in order to help get better leverage over Verizon and get that deal implemented faster and maybe be able to get a better deal next time. Verizon's doing it to defend themselves and not lose the court of public opinion and be like, no, we need to be able to charge for this stuff because look, it's Netflix's fault. Don't let Netflix blame us. And what's really going on is they've agreed to an interconnection that hasn't been implemented yet. And Netflix is willing to say, you know what? There's lots of ways companies can fix this. We even have an agreement with Verizon. So we're going to say that the problem is that it's crowded. I feel like if they hadn't used the name of the network, if they just said the network is crowded right now, we're adjusting, that this would have slid right under the radar. But they named and shamed when they made it the Verizon network is crowded.
So here's the weird betrayal about the whole thing is when you look at it from the outside, you're like, okay, let me get this straight. Netflix cuts a check to Comcast. Instantly, Comcast is faster, but Netflix cuts the same check to Verizon. Verizon can't be bothered to actually fulfill on the bargain, which is one way you could look at it, but like, oh, you, Verizon, dragging your feet. Or you could look at it as, well, there's only one way I know to suddenly overnight increase your bandwidth and your connection speed, and that's if you were intentionally restricting it to begin with. So this might be a condemnation of Comcast instead.
I know just enough to be dangerous in these sorts of things, but I will defend Comcast to be like, no, they were not degrading Netflix. What they were doing was not doing anything to help the interconnections along, either with Netflix or with the transit providers that Netflix was using to get their traffic into the Comcast network. But where I think you're exactly right, Brian, is that Comcast was waiting for this deal, and they had the equipment ready and in place to put it in and implement it on a moment's notice. And Verizon and AT&T were caught out flat-footed, like, whoa, Comcast was able to get that deal. Well, we want to get that deal. Verizon got their negotiating gears in motion faster to come up with a deal. but they didn't have the equipment to implement it. They didn't, or maybe it was equipment. I don't know what it was, but they weren't able to put it in place. So AT&T is almost in a better position because they haven't negotiated a deal, and that what gives them time to kind of gear up, I guess.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense. And keep in mind, of course, we're on the outside. We don't know anything here, but everything you just said makes perfect sense to me, Tom. I totally believe that. I totally believe that that Verizon got caught in the mushy middle, and both AT&T and Comcast are going to benefit out of the way this whole thing went down.
Now, meanwhile, just as a side note, there's an ISP in Hong Kong called the Hong Kong Broadband Network that wrote an open letter to Netflix CEO Reed Hastings saying, at HKBN, we strongly concur with your vision that with strong net neutrality, new services requiring high-speed internet can emerge and become popular, and said, please bring Netflix to Hong Kong. We will put your servers in our server rooms. We will do whatever you want, Netflix. Please, please, please. This is a network that delivers 100 megabit per second parallel up and down to people in Hong Kong.
I mean, yes, but it's also in a hotbed of, it's in a piracy wonderland. So I can understand why there might be difficulty for Netflix to get their licensed content on in that domain.
Well, I don't know if that's the issue or not. I mean, I don't know why Netflix doesn't want to go to Hong Kong. Netflix goes to plenty of Latin American countries where piracy might be a problem. I wonder if it is a licensing thing. But I guess what attracted me to this story was a place with really good broadband and lots of competition saw Netflix as something they want to have for their customers rather than something to kind of fold their arms and go, well, you need our customers, so you better come to the table.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You know who else makes sense, Tom, is our boss. I was talking with our boss the other day.
Well, wait a minute. Now, I know it's a little bit unusual for us because we have a couple of bosses. Which one were you talking to?
You know what? Now that I think about it, it's hard because like all the bosses, they all look the same to me. I mean, it's not.
Are you talking to Bob?
No. Maybe it was,
okay. I mean, maybe Mary.
Okay, in my defense, we do have 1,836 different bosses who get to tell us.
You were talking to Gasper.
No, maybe I don't. You know what? We should do like a random boss of the week and just like spin the wheel.
That's a great idea.
And just talk about how great one individual is. Yeah, if you guys don't know, we're completely or mostly, almost entirely independently supported by you guys. If you go to patreon.com, that's patreon.com/Cordkillers. You could join the ranks of the 1,836 different bosses that we have. And the nice thing is we're able to send you individual emails, letting you know what we're up to early. You guys, of course, get early access to the spoiler in time episodes that we do. And most importantly, you get like behind the scenes reviews. And also you get to jump the line by saying, hey, I'm sending you an email and I'm your boss, so you have to read it. In which case we're like, oh crap, we kind of do.
We better have those reports in by Tuesday.
That's I'm working on it, boss. But we thank all of our almost 2,000. I think that should be our goal, is to get up to 2,000. Even if you just want to donate a nickel an episode, you could do that. We don't care. We're not proud. But it would be awesome if we crossed over 2,000 individual bosses.
We're not. Seriously, not proud at all. That's why we're going to move on to signals intelligence.
That's also true.
Yeah. And I'm just going to read all of these numbers. No, that's not what I'm going to do. But there are a couple of interesting studies here. And I don't know which facts to choose. There's a study from Leichtman Research Group. They do a lot of studies on video services. And essentially the upshot is more people subscribing to online video services, streaming them on televisions, and using online video more often, whether they have cable or not. The other one is an Adobe TV Everywhere report noting that iOS applications have surpassed desktop browsers as the most popular way to access TV content, and that gaming consoles is fastly coming up behind them.
You know, I believe that. It's popular for everyone to talk about the death of the desktop PC or the laptop, and I just don't see it. I think what we're seeing is a saturation point, and we're seeing the expansion of the market into other smaller niche markets. I think that there's, for example, my kids. If I were to report who's in charge of the desktop, I would never list my kids on that kind of thing, but I would list them as iOS users because they have their own individual devices and so on. But what I thought was interesting about this was we are now at a point where 50% of all U.S. households subscribe to Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Hulu Plus. Would it be safe as a ballpark figure to say that this is an industry less than 10 years old?
Yeah, probably. I think that's safe. If we're talking about online video streaming,
In
even
general.
YouTube is just 10 years old,
Okay,
right?
so yeah, so take a look at this graph. I went ahead and
Just
dug up
shot.
adoption rates for yeah, we can zoom in on these for everything from airplanes to cell phones to the internet. Full stop. It is astonishing how fast people are jumping to online video, much faster than cable. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up here so I can actually look at it, and then it won't come up. So there's that. Keep talking, Tom.
Well, I'm looking at this thing, and one of the things that strikes me is that the newer the technology, the faster the adoption.
Well,
So
yes.
I wonder how much of that fast growth of the internet has to do with our social adaptability to new technology getting better over time. But even if that's the case, it doesn't change the fact that these technologies are being adopted faster and faster for whatever reason. And yeah, 47% of U.S. households subscribe to one or more of Netflix, Hulu Plus, or Amazon Prime. That's just those three. Probably doesn't go up much if you add other ones in there. But I think what really has people scared is 10% of households think it's likely they'll cancel cable in the next 10 months. Doesn't mean they will, but that's a nice chunk of people going, maybe I should get rid of that. 80% of Netflix subscribers have cable. That's down from 88% in 2010.
Yeah, so the I feel like in regards to your point about people claiming that they're about to cut the cord, I feel like that's the fashionable thing, like donating blood. It's something everyone knows that totally going to do that next month. You should totally donate blood all the time, and like they know that they resent that cable bill and they know that they resent the experience. But I'm with you. I think that there's a difference between saying you want to do a thing and actually doing it.
What is significant about it is not that they will cut the cord. It's that they're ready. Even if they're just saying it to be fashionable, that's something, right? That's something to be able to be like, cutting the cord is fashionable. So all you need is a push to make it a reality, and suddenly you start an avalanche, right? But
Yeah.
we don't have the ability to make that push right now. Instead, we have a slow rising tide, and that tide is about to get above 50%.
Yeah, there's one story coming up in Frontlines. I keep wanting to jump straight to it, but I'll hold off until we get there. That I think you'll see directly relates to this point.
Yeah, you talk about the theater stuff, right?
I don't know. Am I? No. I was actually thinking about the pricing thing, the pricing related story.
The Price Waterhouse Cooper Sterling.
No, the
price?
$30 pricing thing. Wait for it.
Yeah,
you have to wait just like everyone else, Tom.
Well, stay with us, folks. So we'll have more on that just in a moment, but let's gear up in the meantime.
All right. Sounds good, sir.
We're going to talk about Tablo because Brian got the Tablo. I shipped it to him. But real quickly, Google's Play app for movies and TV on Chrome. This is if you buy a Chromebook. Used to require an internet connection to play, and that's one of those things where like, I don't know if I want a Chromebook because I always have to be connected to the internet. Doesn't anymore. Now it has an offline mode. So granted, you have to use Google Play, which not everybody's going to want to use. But if you have a Chromebook, you can now save movies and TV shows to watch even when you don't have an internet connection, like when you're flying United.
I'll tell you what, this is a big shift right now. The difference between absolutely not an option to a problematic option, I think, is the biggest jump, right? Because to go from nothing to something really matters. And I think this does matter because I don't think I could possibly convince my parents, even though they maybe fly twice a year, I don't think I could convince them to get a Chromebook because they'll be like, well, what if I want to watch it offline or whatever? Like, even though they won't do it, they want to believe that there's that option available.
Yeah, well, you can do it. You just got to use Google Play.
Yeah, just buy it through this store.
If Chromebook sales are rising, I'm not saying they're going to be like the thing, but if they rise far enough, you'll start to see Vudu and Hulu, maybe not Hulu, but plays things like Vudu go, yeah, we'd like to do that too, please. Can we develop that?
Or at least now there's, even if it's an ecosystem of one, at least now there's a clubhouse for all those other guys to say, oh, no, yeah, we'll go to your clubhouse too. Why not? Like, that's not possible when it's just completely off the table. And then once you create an ecosystem, it makes sense for them to move forward.
once you create an ecosystem, then the construction developers come in, and then they want to like plow over your wetlands.
That's true. And then you got to apply for a permit, and you got to bribe your local city officials.
And the EPA officials.
I feel like this metaphor might be breaking down. Just
meanwhile, while we wait for bureaucracy to approve that imaginary permit, Brian's going to tell us what he thinks of the Tablo so far.
Talking about bureaucracy, I don't know. First of all, my wife was extremely fascinated and thrilled to hear that we were getting an over-the-air DVR. And she was also very confused that it wasn't plugged into the television, which I think is just going to be one of the in general things. Once I explained, like, no, it's Aereo, but non-controversial and in your house. I think it's good. I got as far, first of all, I did find it that the setup was a dream, super, super easy. And in fact, undoing your localization preferences and switching over to Austin was also easy because you set the same unit over that you had. You just, you plug in the antenna, you set it down, you plug it into the wall. My biggest problems were I was, number one, finding a physical hard line to plug into that wasn't occupied. I actually set it up in the kitchen because that's just where our house happened to have an open jack.
You're talking about Ethernet?
Yeah, correct. And,
see, I didn't even use Ethernet. I did it over Wi-Fi.
And did it work okay over Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it worked fine.
Do you think that affected the latency times at all, or do you feel
no, because the only latency I had was in channel switching. Once the video played, it always played well.
Yeah. So everything worked great for me, right on up to me remembering. There was a little bit of like, oh, that's right. Tom did mention I would need an external hard drive. So I went and got an external hard drive and plugged it in. And I got all the way up, the setup. I was astonished because you just go to Tablo's website and it says, yeah, found your Tablo. It's over here. Just click on this, do this, tell us where you are. Great. Now, if it's cool, just going to format that hard drive and it'll become RU's. And I realized, like, oh crap, like this was my backup hard drive that I always carry on the road with me with all my backup stuff. And I was like, I guess I don't have a hard drive. But in Tablo's defense, it was, the app was very cool about saying like, well, hey bro, if you don't want a hard drive, you can use the online functions. You're still fine. Which is what I did. I poked around for a little bit, just kind of perusing the menu options on there, and all of that stuff was great. If you're looking for an Aereo interface and you don't want to have to gamble on whether or not Aereo will be around next year, then I will say Tablo is a good interface. For me, personally, number one, I just didn't happen to have I do agree with what you're saying about how expensive it is relative to other options, especially since you have to buy your own hard drive. But at the end of the day, I personally don't watch enough broadcast network television to justify this investment on there. Maybe I would if I had it. But I think I will try to get a external hard drive and hook it up because I do want the full experience. And I strongly suspect that Bonnie will be interested, especially, like it just happens that Cosmos plays friendly with Hulu, but that won't always be the case for when there's something that's on network television that I really want to see.
And do you have a Roku?
I don't.
Okay, yeah. So how are you putting it on television?
Well, that's just it. Is I only watched it on my on my computer, gotcha. But that's how I watch all my stuff. I never I have ceded the living room to the kids. The kids have won that battle of attrition, and now they just own the living room, except for after 10 p.m. when I can watch, one show with Bonnie and that's it.
So yeah, Bonnie may be the one who goes, "Ooh, I wish I could watch this on a television," but it doesn't really matter.
Well,
to you.
But also she's the one who also keeps signing up for Hulu Plus and then unsigning up for it because she wants something to watch while she's doing the dishes.
Okay.
And if she had that and on the laptop it goes to the Tablo. This is why I want to try to make it work, is because I don't think I'm the natural target audience for it, in that I just am not attracted to broadcast television. But there's a good chance Bonnie is, so we'll see.
Well, in the meantime, you're busy adding new things to your scam stuff store all the time.
Oh, man, are we ever. Hey, did you know that Father's Day is around the corner?
Is it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have a father. You may not be a father yourself. and your
I
dogs
did have a father. Yeah,
your dogs.
I was father.
And your dogs don't have a credit card, so they can't buy anything for you.
Damn them.
But
Get a job.
we set up some options over at Scam Stuff. As cheap as $8.99, you can make your dad feel loved. We got a new item called the All Access card. It's a while ago there was something that came out like I don't know, the something monkey or something. That's like a credit card thing with a billion different tools on it. Turns out this crap has existed since the 70s, so we got it cheaper than they do. The only thing that they really brought to the table is that they it's made of a slightly thicker or thinner material, whatever. But anyway, the All Access card's only $8.99, and it's got a saw blade on it. It's got a bottle opener. It's got a box opening blade. It's got a multiple size hex tool and all this stuff. It's pretty awesome. And of course, you could couple it. We got a bundle that goes with that and the utility key, which of course I'm deeply, deeply in love with. If you go to scamstuff.com, you can help keep us afloat. Here, show that utility key. Show that. Sits there right there on your on your keychain, looking completely amazing.
Opener key.
And that's all available at scamstuff.com.
Man, so yours is thicker, your device.
Yeah, that makes it better.
That's better.
That's
because if I'm going to be sawing things and opening bottles and crap with it, I don't want it to be flimsy.
You know what? Some people like it thicker. And I respect those people.
You want girth? Shop Scam Stuff.
Yeah, right on.
Let's see what's under surveillance.
Like real estate, it's all about location.
Under surveillance.
Real quickly, a hat tip to the soccer fans out there excited about the World Cup. GigaOM.com has a great roundup of all the places around the world where you can watch World Cup games online. Here in the United States, it really sucks because ESPN has it, and you pretty much need to be subscribing to ESPN in order to watch it online. Although, Univision has all the Spanish language broadcasts, and those you can get over the air. They're going to have all the games available over the air. So if you have an antenna, you will be able to get them through that.
Does the ESPN thing, does that include like an all-in-one app where you can go like they do at the Olympics? Where
If you are a cable subscriber, yes, you can use the Watch ESPN app and be able to watch all 64 games.
Right on. Talk to me about this Star Trek Phase 2 stuff.
So I feel like I've been covering this thing my entire life. I wrote an article about them when they first had their episode up. I think it might have been only the first episode back at CNET. I wrote it in the same column where I mentioned this new startup from Kevin Rose called Revision 3.
Never heard of it.
And I was like, everybody was writing about Dig. I'm like, forget Dig. Revision 3. That's the interesting one. And also these guys doing Star Trek The New Voyages are interesting too, because they're doing high quality video on the web. And they've changed the name to Star Trek Phase 2 over the years. And the most recent news for them, and they've got a good half dozen episodes now, they're changing Captain Kirk. James Cawley, who founded this, he's the executive producer, has always played Kirk. The new Kirk will be Brian Gross, who has real acting credits. NCIS Los Angeles, CSI New York, Saving Grace. He's done voice work. You may recognize his voice from Star Wars The Old Republic, for instance. And they're moving into a new studio in Ticonderoga, New York. So I feel like, wow, this is really growing up. I was impressed in 2005 by the fact that Star Trek The New Voyages existed. That somebody's like, I can do a video and put it on the web that looks just as good as broadcast television did in the 60s. Now it's like, you know what? We're getting people who actually are top quality actors. And no disrespect to James Cawley, he did a great job. But I think it's interesting that they're like, you know what? We want somebody who's more Kirk than Kirk.
Yeah, well, okay, so what's amazing to me, and we've talked about this before, I am utterly astonished, and I think it is the right decision, but I'm amazed that any major corporation would have the sensibility to allow, essentially, somebody else to just use their entire IP and do whatever they want for playsies on it. Now, understand, the one thing that they've done is they've established this safe playground where they're not really making money on it. They're just doing it as a labor of love, and that's very clear. There's sort of the ceiling that
Right.
that what'll happen is they'll do well enough until they start making money, at which point they're probably not going to say shut it down. They're going to say, all right, you're making money now. Want to join the family? And then they can make something like that happen, which I wish everybody had this idea, and I wish everybody was this open to it. We should have seen this with Star Wars, and somebody will point me to some fan short or whatever. Star Wars has always, I don't know, been patient with all the fan works or whatever. Sure. I would love to see a IP incubator ecosystem where people can bring new, fresh ideas to existing IPs, and it was just established that it's fair use playground up until a certain level where money's being made, and then go somewhere with it. Well,
how many things can you think of that have lasted 9 years doing video on the web?
Tom Merritt. That's what I could think of.
No, I wasn't even doing video on the web. I was writing the column Real Deal that eventually became the audio podcast Real Deal when these guys launched. I mean, Revision 3 is the other one that I could think of.
Yeah, no, that's true. And certainly Hack 5. Darren Kitchen's Hack 5 has been around for that long.
Boom.
Yeah, Scam School's only 6 years old. Man, it's so amazing. We could sit here and talk about how established these properties are and how venerable and valuable. But at the end of the day, man, we ain't nothing but blips on a radar. That's amazing to me.
Yeah. Well, let's, on that sobering note, move to the front lines.
Front lines!
Yeah.
PricewaterhouseCoopers, Sterling Draper Price, released a report projecting that by 2017, services like Netflix and Hulu, all of those kinds of services combined, will make $14 billion. And what's interesting about that is that industry will be making $1.6 billion more than the U.S. movie box office, which still will be rising in the amount of money it makes every year. What does it mean, Brian?
It means, I don't know. I mean, I guess, first of all, it means we're right, and we're always right, and we're good and smart, and that hopefully it means that these establishments will have leverage, but I don't know that I believe it. Even as I say these words, hopefully, I don't know if it's true. What about you?
I think it's a fair projection, and I think it shows that they know where people want to watch their video, which is at home, when they want, where they want. Theaters are great for special occasions and premieres, but they even say in this report, the window of time that a movie is in the theaters is going to shrink.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe with that, or believe whatever you said. Josh Trank, director of Chronicle and currently working on the Fantastic Four reboot, has been hired to direct one of the Star Wars universe's standalone movies. The first 3 movies are rumored to be about Boba Fett, young Han Solo, and an X-Wing pilot movie called Red 5. Which one does Trank get, and which one goes to Gareth Edwards? Tom.
I think we all think Gareth Edwards is going to get Boba Fett, so I'm going to say Trank. Everybody thinks Trank's going to get Solo, but I think he's going to get X-Wing because he's doing an ensemble movie with Fantastic Four.
Well, I wonder, first of all, Red 5 was the designation for Luke Skywalker in the original Star Wars movie, so I wonder if they're creating like a backstory for who had that designation beforehand, or
that's what I think.
That, yeah. like who was Red 5 before Luke? Well, this guy died, you can have his uniform.
I think that would be really fascinating if that's what it was, like the origin story of Red 5.
Or especially if everyone knew he was going to die at the end. That would be different. Yeah. That would be a different movie.
Disney has Maker Studios, if you didn't know that. Time Warner owns a big chunk of Machinima. And now Viacom has acquired a big chunk of Defy Media. One of Defy's big hits, if you don't know them, is the comedy act Smosh. Viacom hasn't really tried to acquire any web properties since they failed to acquire MySpace about 10 years ago.
How much of that do you think that has to do with the fact that Viacom made such an immortal stink over YouTube that, but then all of a sudden they realized that while they were denouncing the game of Monopoly, they failed to take their first 10 turns, and everyone else has snapped up a bunch of properties. So they're like, whatever, we'll take Baltic Avenue. I mean, first of all, and not that they're Baltic Avenue.
I normally don't think those kinds of things really interact because we tend to anthropomorphize companies more than we should.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's the legal department that has to weigh in on an acquisition. And it was the legal department spearheading the assault on YouTube. So I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't have something to do with
No,
it.
that's a really, really good point. I hate Smosh. All right, Bernstein Research. Todd Youngers put out a possible channel list for a possible Dish internet-only video service. Disney's already in. Then he guesses that broadcast networks as well as Viacom, 21st Century Fox, Comcast, and AMC, that would cost Dish $22 a month in fees. Can you see yourself buying a $30 virtual cable subscription? Sounds like an idea that one of us had on this show.
Well, but no, they're going to have to charge more than $30 if they can't make $8. I mean, that's $22 a month just to get the content rights. That doesn't involve operating it, streaming it, paying people to be on your support. They're going to have to charge $40 for that. And at that point, I don't know.
See, 40 is way too far. Like if you're talking 40, because again, the goal is the fig leaf in order to get access. Again, these channels notwithstanding, what you want is the freedom to access all of those guys' online channels.
Watch ESPN, Major League Soccer, Crunchyroll, all added to Chromecast support this past week. The SDK has just opened the floodgates. Also, Aereo just updated its Android app with Chromecast support. This seems like, I don't know what you think, Brian, but this is probably one of the cheapest and most convenient ways to do Aereo. If you've already got an Android phone, $35 for a Chromecast, you're $8 a month for Aereo, you're watching it on your television.
I'll tell you what, man, Chromecast keeps killing it, man, and they kill it by being increasingly open and open. I remember I was appearing on Randall Bennett's show, Tech VI, back in the day, and I remember saying, hey, I wonder if there's going to be like a second Apple versus PC showdown, because it seems like this Android's awfully wide open, and it seemed like that worked well for the PC industry. I'm going to take an extension, by the way. I wonder if in the future Android may come out ahead. And it sure did end up being that way, of course, as Android took over the dominant market share. Do you feel like we're seeing the same thing happen in the player market because of their commitment to openness?
Not yet, I don't think, but it very well could happen. The thing is, Roku has so many apps already, and they have pretty good developer relations at getting apps on there. And Apple, I think, has started to loosen up on what they allow. I don't think we've seen what that marketplace is going to be yet, to know whether it's going to be exactly like that. But it's sure it's shaping up that way. I'll give you that.
And plus also, we have seen, it's not just that we're seeing Chromecast grab more and more territory as more and more people support it. And of course, they bring to the table their own licensing agreements. We are seeing a massive stagnation, I believe, on the Apple TV side of things. It's this... I mean,
really?
How long are we going to sit around and pray for the Apple TV to bless us and be the one thing to reach it all? And we get these incremental little things, but it's like, it's not,
I think you're just
hoping for something that's not there.
You've got raised expectations. If you don't think about the Apple Television rumor, Apple TV has continued to add more and more stuff to it. And I bet we see a big announcement about the Apple TV set-top box later this year.
All right, maybe. Hey, man, Netflix has a new animated series called BoJack Horseman starring Will Arnett coming in August. BoJack Horseman is a washed-up actor struggling to get by.
Struggling to get by, Brian.
That's right. Yeah, he is. Got guest appearances by Amy Sedaris, Aaron Paul, Allison Brie, and more. Do me a favor, jump up, kick some of this on here. We'll take a look at just a second.
I guess I wrote guest appearances there, and I guess they're actually just cast members.
Yeah, no, and you get a bunch of them on there. Just jump somewhere in the middle on there. I really dug what they're up to, and I'm buying it. It's difficult in a comedy to show just a single line out of context and have it be funny.
I'm calling you as your agent.
All right, there's no need to get...
What, catty? Are you going to say catty?
I was not going to say catty.
If you're on the audio podcast.
I was going to say catty.
She's a cat.
Oh yeah, she's a cat, which makes it funnier. Yes. But it's amazing. I'm just blown away by the cast and the names that they have attached to this, and we've already seen them knock it out of the park with Orange is the New Black and House of Cards. I don't see any reason why this won't be amazing.
Agreed.
Blah, 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 blah. Let's check in on the movie draft.
Let's do that thing you said. Wow, Edge of Tomorrow. Really? Like only 28 million.
Worse than Oblivion, Tom. It's
wow.
By the way, 90%
and a much better movie.
90% positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody agrees. The best Tom Merritt movie in years. The best Tom Cruise movie in years. And it's just taking a giant dump. Man, I'd hate to be Team Night Attack right about now.
And The Fault in Our Stars making a run at unseating Neighbors as the best dollar per dollar spent. Amtrak only spent $6 on this thing, and it made $48 million out the gate.
Here's the other thing. This has been a remarkable year for movies in that almost every box office big leaguer has completely taken a 50 to 60% drop after its first weekend. There's something about the changing tastes where it's like we want our movies in the theater for one weekend, and now we want them on DVD instantly. And I think that's really hurting the big blockbusters who normally rely on week after week revenues that aren't coming. However, something like The Fault in Our Stars being based on, historically, this is my prediction. I have no basis for this, but I know it's based on a young adult novel about something that little girls are going to love, like my daughters. So I actually feel like there's a good chance Fault in Our Stars may buck that trend and become the biggest value of all.
I'm going to hold it to what we're watching because I saw The Fault in Our Stars this weekend, and I have a theory about why you may be exactly right.
Dude.
All
right.
Meanwhile, I think in the next 2 weeks, we're going to really know where this movie draft year is headed. Because TMS is hot on my heels, DTNS. They have 351 million. I have 445. My last big movie, X-Men Days of Future Past, is at 189. It might coast into 200 million, but it's not going to make that much more. Next week, TMS has 22 Jump Street. God's Moneybags, who's not really in the running at 159, has How to Train Your Dragon 2. That'll make or break them.
Yeah.
And then the week after that, 2 weeks after that, Transformers Age of Extinction, which is Night Attack's big movie.
Well, that's also our sink or swim moment. We do also have Think Like a Man too, but I'm not expecting that to do more than 30 or 40 million, to be honest.
The Dark Horse would be Amtrekker if Dawn of the Planet of the Apes overperforms,
which
is
it may.
July 11th.
Which it may. However, by all accounts, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is extraordinary. Number one, it's a sequel. It's well reviewed. Jeff Kanata said he liked it more than How to Train Your Dragon 1, and he went back and rewatched How to Train Your Dragon 1 right before watching number 2. Said it was great. So I'm not going to count God's Moneybags out. I think they could have a surprise mega hit with How to Train Your Dragon 2, mainly because I don't know what else the kids are going to go for. It's not going to be Planes, Fire, and Rescue.
I really, really, really doubt that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, that's it. That's pretty much it for the rest of the summer.
This whole thing could hinge on 22 Jump Street.
Yeah. We're still waiting on the mega comedy of the summer, and especially since A Million Ways to Die in the West died in the West. That man, you're right. 22 Jump Street, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Transformers pretty much going to determine this whole movie draft.
Tell the tale. All right, let's see what's been on the screen.
No, wait, yes. Okay, fine. Am I hosting right?
Did I cut you off? I'm sorry.
No, I was just being annoying.
I'll go right into The Fault in Our Stars because I just mentioned it. This movie is for everyone. They have marketed it, and it is known because of its popularity to be for teen girls. And believe me, I was surrounded by weeping teen girls in this movie. But it is a 100% smart, well-constructed drama. And so I think that word is going to spread around. All of the teen girls are going to want to go see it again and again and again, which is going to help it. And I think the fact that it is a really smart movie is going to make some parents go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I will see that. I will go to the theater."
I mean, I think
I'm not saying it's going to like become a super blockbuster or a runaway hit or anything like that, but I think it's going to continue to perform.
I guess it really all boils down to how many of the parents get the message, because I was amazed to see how many people came in, and it didn't help the box office numbers, but apparently the word of mouth really got around about how good Edge of Tomorrow was. And I saw people going out on Sunday night saying, "Okay, internet, you convinced me. I'll go watch it." If you could get that experience with, it's like, take your kids to go see it because you'll love it, then I could see this quietly making $15 million a week like clockwork for the next 3 or 4 weeks.
And it's a tearjerker, don't get me wrong, but it is not the sappy tearjerker that I think a lot of people will think when they hear the premise. And the premise is that girl who has terminal cancer befriends a guy who's recovering from cancer in a support group. She doesn't think she has a chance for love. They're teens. They have teen love. That description does not in any way do justice to the movie that was put together here, or the story that gave rise to the movie. It's very smart. It's very clever, and it feels very real. And the author of the book that the movie's based on spent time working in a children's hospital, and you could tell because these children feel like real people rather than cardboard cutouts.
Man, that's so rough because like the moment you were saying that it's good and parents will like it, and even though it's targeted at teen girls, like, you know, Penny is 10. So the first thing I thought of was like, maybe I'll ask for Penny if she wants to go. And then I pictured going to it and her just crying nonstop the entire time. And I was like, nope, don't think I'll take Penny to that one. I think we'll wait for How to Train Your Dragon 2.
In spoiler in time, we'll talk about The Shield. I did watch 2 episodes, episodes 2 and 3 of season 2.
Oh, hell yeah.
This week.
It's happening now. He's getting in the zone.
I binged on the regular show, watched all of the rest of season 2. Then I actually watched a couple episodes of Clone Wars. The re-imaged Clone Wars, not the 2D animation, but the 3D animation.
Right. The one, and for the record, I've been told by a number of people that it's, and the quote is always, it's not, oh, it's really good. The quote is always, well, it's actually pretty good. And by the way, for the record, just anyone who uses the word actually, understand that it undercuts whatever you're about to say next.
And I would totally be on board. Like, I'm not dying to go back watch another one, but if I tell you what it's good for. If I'm like, ooh, I want a little Star Wars right now, and I want a little new Star Wars that I've never seen before, it'll scratch that itch. But it's not, it's actually pretty good. Halt and Catch Fire, which is the AMC show about tech startups in the 80s in Texas, will throw you off in episode 1, Brian, because he parks behind the Capitol in downtown Austin and then walks to a UT classroom, which I'm like, that was a really stupid place to park, man. I'm
not going to say that it's impossible. I'm just saying you maybe went the long way.
Like, yeah, there's not that many lights to cross MLK. That's all I'm saying. I mean,
is it good?
It's actually pretty interesting, and it's sort of some ways trying too hard to be Mad Men of the 80s. Mm-hmm. But I liked it enough to give it. I'm going to watch episode 2, which was on last night.
And this is on one more time.
This is AMC. You can get it on iTunes.
Okay. And are the legends true that you've jumped into? Oh no, more Orphan Black. Somebody sent us an
Orphan
email.
Black is amazing. I can't even tell you how impressed I am every week that Tatiana Maslany is so talented of an actor. I want to tell you so bad, but it's a spoiler. But she plays clones, right? That's not that much of a spoiler. You get that in episode 1. That's they call it Clone Club in a hashtag on their website. But the clones that she plays continue to impress. That's all I'll say.
That's so
Anybody
great.
who saw this episode this week knows what I'm talking about.
Well, here's what I'm interested in, and we'll have to figure out how to fit it into our schedule because I suppose you and I need to watch Orange is the New Black, which is out season 2.
I was made to wait. So I did not jump in on that yet.
Well, good. I just waited. Nobody made me wait. I just waited.
You're saving yourself.
And then, yes, exactly. And then also Black Mirror, is also on our list of book club stuff to see. I figured out a trick.
You can get over VPN.
Maybe. I figured out a trick, Tom. It took me a while to realize that, I watch a lot of television that I don't realize when it comes, because it's every Monday I sit down and I'm like, what the hell did I watch? And I only remember what I sat in the living room and did. And then I finally realized that, oh, wait, YouTube has like a history of what I viewed. And I looked at my history and there was nothing in there. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, wait, let me look at Scam School's history. Scam School apparently has been watching a whole bunch of stuff, including the Thunderfoot Skeptical videos. He did a couple of videos specifically like breaking down the economics of that solar freaking roadways viral sensation that are really, really good. It popped on my radar mainly because somebody this morning said that I appeared in one of them. He took a clip from the National Geographic special.
Oh, cool.
And to make a point. Also, I watched Cosmos, and we'll talk about that in spoiler in time. But during it, there's a bit of a love letter to the Voyagers 1 and 2, specifically talking about the Golden Album, that the LP that's on there with instructions for aliens to groove to our jams, which I believe is what they wrote on the record. Hey, aliens, groove to our jams. And I realized I'd never listened to the Interstellar Golden Album in its entirety. So I looked it up. Sure enough, there it is on YouTube. I clicked go. And it was fantastic, man. when you listen to a random assortment of songs, and the majority of the album is music of various varieties, and you look at it through the lens of an alien civilization trying to understand our planet, I mean, I got chills. I got chills and thrills, and I grew gills.
I've wanted to own that as an album my entire life. Well, not my entire life, but ever since it became a thing. And they did sell it as a CD once. I don't know if they ever sold it as vinyl. Maybe they did, and I just have never run across it.
Right.
They sold it as a CD-ROM as well, but it's out of print right now.
Well, and this is where, you know, the strength of YouTube is that you essentially crowdsource the preservation of stuff.
You can get the audio, but just the idea of having like,
oh yeah,
I would like it
this
to
is
be
the
yellow,
space
maybe not
album.
gold, but you know.
Yeah. The only thing that marred my experience was listening to it because I had it on in the background while I was paying bills, and then all of a sudden I hear this voice saying, "Isn't it strange to be able to talk to things that aren't alive, but they are alive?" And he goes, "Gary Busey, the Kindle Fire, available now."
Oh.
It's, I had this total like, what the hell am I listening to? And I realized that I'm hearing pre-roll.
Why did Gary Busey get on the Golden Album?
Yes, that was the only downside to the whole thing. Let's see. We'll talk about Cosmos. We'll talk about Game of Thrones. Did talk about the Tablo. Oh, my goodness. Stop what you're doing and go look up the Price is Right two-screen experience. It is extraordinary. It is a true behind the... You don't realize what a magic trick they do every single time they shoot the, and I know you're actually looking it up right now. You're actually bringing it up. Every time they do The Price is Right, that is a full-on choreographed magic show, and you get to see exactly how it's done, and they don't hold anything back. I love this postmodern society where they have a camera on Drew Carey's glasses that's able to see.
This video is private.
They have. Oh, did they already take it down?
Well, the first one I found.
Oh, that'll be a bummer. But the you know, like you see this standalone gizmo, and you see the PA, the production assistant, sitting there like flipping switches and spitting out prices and punching buttons and moving, and it just reads as magical puppeteering. I loved it. I can't put it in words enough. It's absolutely amazing, and I hope it's still up. Take a look. Somebody in the chat will give us a link here shortly. But anyway, that was great, and of course the Xbox E3 announcement on Twitch.
Yeah, I want to find a link for that. So if you get one, send it to cordkillers@gmail.com or put it in the chat room there.
Yeah, right.
Let us get finished with some dispatches from the front.
Yeah. Man, I got a lot. Feel free to skip any of these, Tom. I just sort of grabbed, we had so many good letters this week, I grabbed them all. I'll start with what Jack says. He says, "Thanks for the show again. Any chance you could section one a week or a month where you guys add a show to have people check out, kind of like a book of the month club from Sword and Laser? Since your show, I've been binge watching and watched seasons of The Shield, Archer, and just finished season 1 of Arrow. I watched season 2 of Arrow and going to start Orphan Black. Good option would be picking shows on streaming services, et cetera, et cetera." I'm going to say this. First of all, I'm going to join you in Orphan Black, Tom. And I think
cool.
both of us are going to watch season 2 of Orange is the New Black, right?
Yep, absolutely.
It's got to have black in the title, or we won't watch it in a club. The Shield Black, The Wire Black.
Right. So we're kind of doing this, right? I'm doing the Shield Black. And
right?
then, Brian, you're going to do Orphan Black the way I was doing the Shield, right?
Yes.
So you'll watch
I'll
it, and then
probably
we'll talk
dive
about it.
in and watch a whole bunch of them straight through. But yes,
and then Orange is the New Black, we will do, or The Shield is the New Black, we will do together. So there you go. You got 3 right there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, jump in, and we're not officially doing it, but unofficially, this is very much what we're trying to do with the spoiler in time segments.
Absolutely. We got a couple emails here, one from Dirk, one from Danny. We got a bunch of Twitters about the same thing. I'll read Dirk's. It seems pretty representative. "I just tried to watch episode 22 of Cordkillers in the same way I have for the last 5 months by streaming it on YouTube from my Nexus 5 to my Chromecast. Tonight I got an error saying this video is unavailable on this platform. I was able to stream it from a Chrome tab on my PC to the Chromecast. Did anything change?" And the weirdest thing about this was people were like, "Yeah, I'm having the same problem on my iPhone," or "I'm having the same problem on my Xbox." So Zach and I did a little digging, and we found an error message, which wasn't immediately apparent because it didn't take it down from YouTube. It only took it down from certain mobile platforms and apparently the Xbox because of a content ID, which is the robot in YouTube that matches copyright, for the playing of music of the Czech recording of Let It Go from Frozen.
Even though there was no Czech recording, what you heard was a parody song written using the same music as
when
Let It Go.
When you get this notice, it'll tell you, would you like to hear the offending portion? So I said, yes, play the offending portion, to which it took us to the beginning of the show where we played the Game of Thrones parody of Frozen, which apparently to the Content ID robot sounded like Czech.
Well, screw you, Content
Worst
ID
part
robot.
about that whole thing is I said dispute, because that ain't the Czech version of Game of Thrones, Frozen, whatever. Right. And it said, great, tell us why you're disputing. None of the options were, you got it wrong.
You know what? That's a really good point. And of course, they don't allow other fill it in. They're just like select from the below. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like you have the radio buttons, right? And it's like they've got like 10 options. Like it's fair use, I own the rights, I bought the rights. Like they have all these scenarios, but none of them are, this is not the right thing. You're saying I'm doing something that I'm not. So I just chose fair use. And then in the comments section, I wrote not the same song. And the whole time, my wife, who works at YouTube, is sitting on the couch while I'm going, stupid YouTube with their content ID, get it wrong. It's stupid. She's like, just don't tell me. It's not my fault.
You're like, I'm off duty, Tom. I told you, you can't do this. Hey, we got an email from John that says, watching Cosmos, I agree with Tom. I've hated the external views of the ship of the imagination. Clearly someone involved with the production either couldn't grasp the idea that if the ship is imaginary, the only image of it, what it looks like from the outside, should exist in the minds of the viewer, or they thought the viewers wouldn't get it. You can almost see someone rolling their eyes and saying, okay, as if they slapped the lackluster image to placate an unimaginative superior. I got to tell you, man, and we'll talk more about this, but watching that last episode, I actually, unbidden out of nowhere, found myself thinking, like, I really like what they did with the ship of the imagination, because there's two things. First of all, when they needed to convey speed, they made it look like a jet engine going. When they needed to convey a sense of reflecting on the amazing whatever it is that you're looking at, they made sure it was vertical and that it showed the bulk of the ship was reflecting what was on there. I thought it was well, I'll spoiler alert. I'm going to spoil the spoiler in time. Like I got choked up at the end when they showed the empty chair in the ship of the imagination, because it was clear who that was meant to represent. And I as it zoomed in, I was like, oh, now we're gonna see Neil like sailing through the stuff. Oh, shit! I mean, it was. I'm getting all upset now. No, I loved it. I love what they did with it.
You know what I have to say, John. While you say you agree with me, and I didn't love the ship of the imagination. I made that clear. I never thought it was because they couldn't grasp the idea. It was just one of those things where the ship of the imagination distracted me more than it helped. I got what they were trying to do. They were trying to give you a central point where you could be like, okay, we're going to bring the story together here. And that is a valid thing to do. It just didn't work for me, mostly because there were times when they're like trying to be very literal and scientific about something, and the ship of the imagination would fly in and go, well, that wouldn't be there. They wouldn't get the ship of the imagination orbiting a black hole, which is totally a personal problem. So I didn't feel like it was a failure of the production crew or anything. It was just a device that didn't work for me. A matter of taste.
Yeah.
We'll hear more about what I thought of the final episode in spoiler in time. I don't know. Where should I go next? We do have a lot of these.
Let's just jump down to those last two short ones.
All right. Your name is Tim. Thank you, Tim. And your name is Tim Last, and you're going to be the last email that I'm going to read. I really enjoy the show. Feel like it's hitting its stride. Thank you, Tim. Any chance you guys could keep the Star Wars spoilers off the regular show? Maybe discuss it only in spoilering time. I'm trying to go into episode 7 with as little background as possible, and it's hard to do so if you guys are reporting on all the leaked photos and such.
Man, this is a tough one, because I understand the spirit of what he wants to do. And in fact, I'm becoming a convert of the Jeff Kanata way of thinking of don't even watch the trailers or whatever.
It's like a freaking nanny state, right? It's actually chilling discussion for people to be so freaking spoiler sensitive. Like, could you just not report the news? Actually, could you not discuss anything outside of any? Could you just not say anything ever?
I mean, this is the
because I want to go into the next day pure and not knowing anything about what happened.
This is the problem, right? At some point, it's freaking news. Would you have preferred that we didn't tell you that there's a new Star Wars movie? Would that have made it more special if you just went to the movies thinking you were going to watch the new Hunger Games and, oh, crap, there's a freaking Star Wars movie? What a great surprise. I'm sure that would be a delightful experience for you.
I really want to be spoiler sensitive. I don't want to ruin a movie for you, Tim, or anybody. But at a certain point, like, these are rumors and leaked photos that tell you nothing real about a movie that hasn't come out yet. So you're not getting spoiled. This does not fit the direction of the spoiler. Same time, Brian said it very well. I get what you're going after, which is wanting to have that pure experience. So I don't know.
Well, and plus also there's the question of like if there is such a thing as a pure experience, you know, like again, for all of Jeff Kanata's like I don't watch trailers anymore, and I bet he has a amazing tantric experience with his movies where he just sits there flexed and coiled and then just freaking explodes with joy when he sees everything for the first time.
Sure.
But not all of us want to do it that way. Some of us want to grab some booby first.
Well, and it really does. And I totally understand what Jeff is going for, and I respect him for that. But it really does like chill discussion when you like, could you just not ever mention anything outside ever? Like I wrote a long email to somebody who's like, you spoiled this thing. And I'm like, I mentioned another movie and something that happened in that other movie. And granted, what I said was maybe on the lines of a spoiler, but it didn't spoil the essential elements of that movie.
For the record,
it said something that happened in that movie, and I used it as, what happened in this movie that we're talking about right now? It was in our spoiler in time episode. That also happened in another movie. And the person was mad at me for spoiling that movie. And I'm like, well, now how do we talk about anything if we can never allude to anything else?
I feel like we drilled down to the real issue here, which is you and I get a lot of people complaining about us spoiling one thing or other at some point. And at some point, at the end of the day, it's like we have to draw a line somewhere. So for us, the political answer is, look, this is a show where we're going to say whatever we feel like. If you don't like it, we're real sorry. Because sooner or later, we're probably going to say something that you're going to wish you hadn't heard, and we're no backsies on any of that. And we're probably going to continue to talk about Star Wars. We'll continue to report Star Wars news. We understand if that's a problem. Just please, hit that 30-second skip button a couple times.
I have to say, Tim, and I mean this with all the love in my heart, I don't consider talking about a leaked photo about Star Wars a spoiler. And maybe I'm a horrible person because of that.
Well, I mean, you are a horrible person.
Well, I'm a horrible person for other reasons, but maybe that's one of them.
You know why you're the most horrible person is because that's the note we're going to end this episode of Cordkillers on.
I'm sorry, Tim.
Don't forget, if you guys want to chime in, you can hit us up at cordkillers@gmail.com or head on over to cordkillers.com. There's a nice little web app where you can send in messages. A lot of people sending in good stuff. Keep them nice and short. We'll get them on.
Don't tell me that. I want to go into the email.
Right. Can you not ruin our freaking...